the swipe or bump your phone at the kettle. It's not just cash in that red kettle. There's actually a sign you can bump.
Cool.
iPay, Apple Pay, Google Pay is all on every one of our stands. And then we actually also have one that's just an immediate bump your credit card, and it's an immediate $20 donation.
Oh, nice.
So instantaneous.
Kyle, welcome. Kyle Karsten from the Salvation Army, and you're the Director of Development, correct?
Director of Development.
Yeah, well, welcome to the table. It's an honor to have you.
Yeah, that's official, right?
Yeah, it is.
Welcome to the table. I like it. I like it.
We think it is.
Yeah,
who knows, right?
Oh, it's catchy. No, appreciate the invitation. Kind of been looking forward to this, so thank you so much.
Well, thank you for coming. I can only imagine this is probably a very busy time of the year for you, around Christmas time, so... Tell us a little bit, because I see your guys in front of all the grocery stores, at least here in Springfield, but you're out of the Macon County office.
Well, I think that's a great way to start. I mean, find your local Salvation Army.
Yeah.
You know, there's multiple counties that are listening in today, seeing the podcast, and there's a local Salvation Army that's serving your local community. Find that place, reach out to them. Hey, can we bell ring? Hey, how can we help you? Because ultimately we're helping our fellow neighbor in our communities. For Decatur and Macon County, 'tis the season.
Yeah.
It is a busy time.
Yep.
But I was telling Jay off air here, it's busier sometimes just getting ready for the Christmas season because there's so much. So we reference this Christmas booklet every year. We've been talking about that even before we started today. And I really love that people are looking forward to getting their school or their business or their church or their family involved.
Yep.
Because there is a lot of different ways that people can jump in for the Christmas season.
And like tell us more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, that Christmas booklet on our website, sadecatur.org, has all of these kinds of things. I think the number one thing that people see, and you already alluded to it, is the bell ringing, right? The red kettles are out in front of the stores. We only raise money as a Salvation Army through bell ringing if there's a bell ringer. Yeah. So if there's no bell ringer, we don't just put a kettle out there and expect people to just walk up to it. It's not how it happens.
Sure.
So it's really important, not just to ring a bell, but to really understand that every hour we ring, we are raising money to help people.
Yeah. How long does that go on, that campaign?
So it depends on the stores.
Okay.
Right? So those are all corporate conversations and corporate agreements between corporate Salvation Army and corporate stores. And so number 2 today, thank you to those corporate stores. If they don't agree to allow bell ringers in front of them, it will change things in a big way. So some of the stores allowed us to start early November, and that's kind of hard for people like, oh, man, you're ringing already? What are we doing?
Yeah.
And
they're out in front of Schnucks right now. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. And what I tell people on that is, you know what? If you had 3 additional weeks to raise more money to help more people, why wouldn't we do that?
Right. Yeah.
Why would we just wait until after Thanksgiving? Because that's $1 and more dollars that weren't raised. Yeah. So the stores then come on board. Walmart and Sam's Club came on board here 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, and then Kroger jumps in, and I'm thinking of Decatur in our stores. But at that point, then the day after Thanksgiving, all 10 of our Decatur, Macon County locations will be up and going. So we just celebrate that every bell ringer that decides to come out with hopefully one of their groups, their business, their church, their family would help us do some ringing.
So as a percentage of your overall development budget that you have to hit or you're trying to raise, is bell ringing 10%?
Yeah, so I'll break that down a couple different ways. So Christmas as a whole is a good portion of the let's help people this Christmas, but let's help people in the year to come. It's the biggest part of our fundraising. So our goal in Decatur is $600,000 in November and December. It's a big number.
That's your Christmas season.
That's our Christmas season goal. Okay. For bell ringing, that's about $140,000 to $150,000 of that $600,000 will come in the red kettle.
Yeah, so 25%. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, okay, cool.
And then, you know, obviously that doesn't cover all of the next coming year, but it really makes a dent in being able to be in a position to help people out of the gate.
Yeah.
And then the golf outing and other things that we do.
And I know we played in that this year, and I think they said you guys had a great turnout. So tell us more about that.
Yeah,
I will say
absolutely.
It was well attended, very well organized,
Appreciate that.
first class operation.
Nice
We've all played in a bunch of golf outing fundraisers.
Right.
Some of them well done, some of them not so well.
A lot of different ways to do it, right? A lot of different ways. So golf outings, again, for me, I've played in hundreds of them too. And half of the reason I always wanted to do a golf outing is so that I could play in my own golf outing. But I don't even do that anymore. I stand on one of the greens and I putt with the teams as they come through, and it's just a relaxing way to thank people and enjoy the day. But our golf outing has become that second biggest fundraiser of the year for us.
That's great.
And you know, we talked about a second flight or something like that, and we're probably getting to the numbers where we could consider that. But if you don't get in early to our golf outing in August, you might not get into the golf outing. So I appreciate
that's a good problem to have.
It's a good problem to have.
And to make it exclusive even makes it people to want to be part of it even more. So.
You know, and the sponsorships. Yeah. And Peerless has been gracious to not just golf in it, but you've been gracious to be a sponsor a lot of years. So thank you for that. That's where the donations.
One thing's for sure, you do your job, because every time I open my email, I feel like I'm getting that.
I
told Chris, I said, well, I don't know what holiday we're going into. But
I don't know if that's a compliment or not.
It is, because when he was with the chamber, he called me. I'm like, oh, for crying out loud, what brews and blues or something? You know, that's what he goes, hey, I'm just doing my job, okay? Don't shoot the messenger.
and I do hear people say, you know, hey, you're reaching out a lot, but here's the thing, you know. Come alongside us so we can help our community.
And
that's it. And I know you're not meaning it that way. Yeah. But I guess for me, I don't always just want to be that he's asking for money person.
And I don't. I know you're not. And you're doing your job, and you do it really well. And I
appreciate
think
you saying
you
that.
keep salvation out there in front of me, which is where it needs to be.
We do.
So that we can, you know, or any small business can do at the level that they can afford to do.
Yeah, that's well said. That's well said. Yeah. You know, we put out there the opportunities to support, but I also want to keep putting out there what that's doing.
Sure.
You know, so we'll send in an occasional impact report. We have that on our social media regularly.
And you do a good
Here's
job.
Our programs. Here's the numbers.
Yeah.
Here's what we're able to do.
Tell us a little bit about those programs.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at like the food pantry or men's emergency shelter. I don't know anything about that.
Yeah. No, that's well said. So I still have a job to do, right?
Yeah.
Not everybody knows. And I think when I get a chance to talk to groups or places like this podcast, if people have someone that comes across their business or their church that needs assistance, call us. Call us, call your local Salvation Army, and if we can't help, we have partners in the community that can help. You know, so I think I continue to talk to people that we need to be in a position at a moment's notice to respond to needs. You know, you can't just go do a fundraiser during the winter season because you're going to have more men in your cold cop program. Okay, let's go do a fundraiser.
Right.
We need to be in a position to add 25 more men during the winter season. And it comes out to about 120 different men come through our shelter just in the winter season, just to keep them alive first, and then hopefully to help them towards self-sufficiency. But our numbers in 2023, we had almost 300 different men come through our men's shelter for short-term or long-term need. 60 plus got some job, 60 plus got their own housing. So to get them ready, willing to want to stand on their self-sufficiency path is it's heartwarming to watch that, not just meet their immediate needs. But the food pantry, we just had the community food drive. That's a game changer.
How did we do this year? You know, we had Kevin Brahaney and John Skeffington on.
Founders of that.
Right
Founders
before, because they kind of came back, I think, and picked it back up. But how did we do? Do you know?
Fantastic. Okay, unbelievable. I mean, they presented checks last week to a number of organizations. We got over $100,000.
Oh,
that's awesome.
I mean, that's
great.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And again, a game changer so that we can feed people.
Yeah.
More people are coming to these pantries, and I think it's increased cost. I think it's, losses of jobs or hours. I mean, all kinds of situations. So we have to be able to feed our community. We have prescription assistance that we help families with medicine. We have our Pathway of Hope and our emergency services programs where, we can keep people in their homes so that they don't become homeless. We can keep the heat on in the winter when a utility bill can't be paid. And there's just a lot of needs that people might have. So I'm glad you asked about the programs because if nothing else, know what the Salvation Army is doing and is capable of doing. And then that really kind of frames it in perspective that red kettle and that bell ringing and that, that donation of a sponsor, whatever it is, that's what we are able to do with that support.
Do you see a lot of individuals or families, or at least a slice of the folks that you serve, that they're folks that are in their own apartment, their own home, and they're working, but because of inflationary factors and so on and so forth, they may get through 22 days of the month, but they can't meet their own needs the last 8 days of the month.
Absolutely.
And you help fill that gap.
Absolutely.
Okay. I just didn't know if that was part of your target or not.
My team over at the pantry and the shelter could answer that specifically.
Yeah.
What I do know is we changed our hours, as an example, that our food pantry is now open 2 evenings a week and Saturday morning. We found that our numbers went up when we changed our hours. Now think about that.
Yeah.
These are working families who couldn't even get to our food pantry because they were working.
Sure.
And now they also are coming up to us saying, thank you for changing your hours. It was something so simple for us, but we were open when it was convenient for us.
Sure.
Not convenient for maybe a family who needed to come after work to visit that. So when the numbers are presented, we're serving nearly 1,100 people. That's adults and children a month these last 6 months, where it used to be about 700 to 800 a month. Wow. Yeah. So the numbers are there. I mean, we don't celebrate that. Hey, yay, there's more people in need. I'd love to see those numbers down, right? I'd love to see us out of a job that people don't need our help, but that's probably never going to happen. Yeah. And you just really don't know exactly why that person or family had to come to us. But, we're all spending more at Christmas. We're all spending more because prices went up. We're all faced with that. But if you're living paycheck to paycheck or one, furnace or car payment or car repair away, we all face that, but it doesn't send us into a I don't know what to do moment.
Sure.
And some of these families don't know what to do. We want to make sure that we're there to maybe just get them through the month. It could be that simple.
Yeah, that's outstanding. Yeah. Well, we were talking to somebody we had interviewed, and they were talking about, and that never occurred to me that there would be working class families, people that are at 2 jobs that maybe can't make their electricity payment.
Yeah, these aren't just the homeless people,
no,
right?
Exactly.
These aren't people without a
even,
job or this perception that we have as people on the street or whatever. And we certainly have those. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there's some tough situations that these guys aren't ready to get their own job. They aren't ready to have their own place. They don't want it. That they're just in tough spots. But that isn't everyone. Yeah. These are families. These are individuals that need to spend some short-term or some long-term time with our programs. And I love the success stories that come out of that. Yeah. And that success might be that it just got them through the month, or it just kept a man alive in the 30 below wind chill factor that's coming.
Sure.
But it also might just be as simple as, these individuals just fell on hard times. Yeah. And we just need to kind of breathe some love and some hope back into them and just be there. Our Christmas theme is love beyond. And right out of the Bible with a verse from 1 Peter that says, above all else, love. I mean, that's what we're trying to do in anything that we do, is just show some love. Physical love is a pretty noticeable way to love somebody. And if you don't have that family or that group of support when you fall in hard times, maybe that's the Salvation Army. That's your family. That's your group.
How long have you been at the Salvation Army? Seems like you've been there quite a
They
while.
measure
now.
it on number of Christmases.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Did you know that?
How many Christmases?
This will be my 9th Christmas.
Ninth?
Is
Okay.
that right?
9th Christmas.
Are you? I mean, obviously, what you do is very rewarding.
It is
I mean,
rewarding.
I can only imagine. So,
Yeah.
are you loving what you're doing?
I love
for the
it.
community. And,
I love it. It's the longest I've ever lived in a community
Yeah.
as an adult
Right.
in one stretch. So
Yeah.
I'm coming on
Cool.
16, 17 years
Yeah.
in Decatur. And I like it.
What
I like
brought
it a
you to
lot.
Decatur originally?
So originally, I was a school superintendent for one of the private schools
That's right.
in
I
the
remember-
area.
I thought
and that's
that,
what
yeah.
brought me
Okay.
in. And some things changed, and had a chance to leave the community, but this opportunity came, and it really is a bigger way, I think, in some ways, to serve the community.
Yeah.
Loved that first 7 years with the school and the churches that way, but this really expanded a lot of relationships because there's so many people that understand what the Salvation Army does.
Yeah. So being from Decatur, me personally,
Yeah.
and having now moved to Springfield to do some, take care of things over here with our business,
Sure.
I always felt like Decatur was one of the most giving communities as far as, whenever there was an ask for something.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
So I've been in 3 other communities doing schoolwork. So not nonprofit, not another Salvation Army, but I really would put the Decatur, Macon County community up against just about anybody.
Pretty amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
It makes your job even more rewarding. I'm going to say easy, but easier because people understand that Decatur has services to help people, and we have a community that does get behind their own.
Yep.
And their own organizations, and the Salvation Army
Sure.
becomes their own community, and who we're all serving together. That food drive, our golf outings, the Christmas season, and really examples of a lot of other nonprofits. Work through the United Way, work through the Community Foundation. We have a generous community. And I'm sure there's other communities that are very generous as well. I don't know how to compare them in a way that says Decatur is that all that, but they're an amazing, giving, caring, considerate community, like you said.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So if we want to give to the Salvation Army around the holidays right now, and if obviously we'll do it at the grocery stores and things like that when we can, all of us. But where else can people go to make a donation?
No, appreciate that. So again, I keep kind of referencing this Christmas booklet.
And is there any matching programs going on out there?
Yeah, there is.
Sometimes that can motivate people to give.
for sure.
So I think what I would say in that catalog, that booklet we keep referencing, there's virtual kettles.
Okay.
You can go and actually give online. You can give your time to also set up your own virtual kettle and become a virtual bell ringer. I think that's a great way to do it these days. You can obviously go to those red kettles.
Okay.
A lot of people are dropping checks that they were going to make their Christmas donation anyway, and so they come into the kettles. There's a mail appeal program that's pretty active with Salvation Army. But I think the sponsorships is how I would answer your question mainly. The sponsorships for the 2 events that we had one in November, and we have another dinner gala coming up on December 12th. Business sponsorships or family sponsorships, I can match dollar for dollar as a Christmas sponsor and what we raise at the dinner gala.
Okay.
So the first event raised about $25,000 in sponsorships. So I do have some opportunity to still match some gifts.
Okay.
Sponsorships could also include a table to the event, and this year it's December 12th, but we moved it to the Lincoln Square Theater. So we have a concert by Pizzazz, and then we have 11 local restaurants that are donating some of their signature food. So it's going to be a fun night, to get together. But I think the donations of find your Macon County mayor that might be bell ringing later this month. Find your first responder group that you want to show some special love.
A competition between the mayors, is that right?
Yeah, so mayor competition and first responders competition are probably the 2 biggest weekends coming up in December. And I think I would even frame this as to say, these donations in the Red Kettles are probably even more important this year. We are one less weekend of bell ringing this year than a typical December month. And maybe nobody notices that, but I do.
Yeah, I bet you do.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So a Friday and a Saturday at all of our significant locations is a dollar figure from last year.
Gotcha.
And so we only have 3 weekends instead of 4. So we're already kind of in
less
that,
time
all right,
to
here we
make
go,
up. Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So how do we do that? Is it a sponsorship? Is it a matching gift kind of thing? Or is it you know what? I'm going to put it in the kettle of my mare. I want my mare to win, right?
Yep.
So we have Oriana, Forsyth, Maroa, and Mount Zion this year. Those 4 competing. December 7th through 14th. So have some fun with that.
Yep.
But find your first responder. I mean, our Abbott EMS is joining on, the sheriff and the police, the city and county firemen. They ring for 2 full days, December 13th and 14th.
Cool. Yeah.
And it is cool. It's above and beyond. We already know what they do for our communities, right? But for them to come out and ring bells. So to your question, how can people help? Whatever you're going to be willing to make as an end of the year gift or a Christmas gift, find that red kettle or find that sponsorship form on our website or drop it off. Yep. A significant response is going to be needed for us to meet that $600,000 goal. And we've met that goal the last couple of years, and hopefully, God willing, we'll do that again this year.
What's the web address for folks if they want to?
So the letter S, the letter A, abstaining obviously for Salvation Army. So sadecatur.org.
Okay. Easy enough.
Sadecatur.org.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And again, back to that bell ringing, we have 1,100 volunteer hours so far this year already reserved.
Yep.
We only had 900 last year for the whole season. So already a good response, better response. But there's about 1,600 more hours here, from the end of November through December 24th, and groups that would come out and ring. I think people know this, but I share this publicly. If we don't have a volunteer, we've said we don't have a bell ringer. Well, not quite true. I actually hire bell ringers if we don't have volunteers. So think about that. People on limited income, people willing to just work seasonally, a college kid, a single mom that just wants to pick up a shift or 2, or even better, some of these guys are out of our shelter and they need a job and they're willing to pay it forward.
Yeah.
So paid bell ringers, but it's still costing me $15 an hour in the state of
Exactly.
Illinois,
Yeah,
as you know too.
As
you know too.
Yes. Yep.
So any volunteer,
There's probably a lot of other things that you better be in compliance
so that volunteer's
with.
saving us $15.
Yeah, right.
Plus what they raise,
Right.
and they typically raise more, than a paid employee does, even though they do a great job.
Yeah.
So bell ringing is a great
any
way
funny
to come
stories
out.
or fun stories? From time to time, you'll get a creative bell ringer, which I always appreciated. Anything that you can tell a story about somebody that really puts a lot of effort into it?
I think I would answer it from a volunteer and from a paid ringer perspective. The volunteers that come out and compete amongst themselves, Walmart door food, Walmart door pharmacy, and they just have some fun together.
Oh, nice.
That's probably where you see a little bit more going on.
Yeah.
And then some of them were, they got lights hanging on the kettle stand. They got music playing.
That's the
they
ones
got
I'm
their
talking
Santa
about.
hats on.
That's pretty cool.
The people that kind of go above and beyond, what they're doing is they're raising more money,
I'm
but
sure.
they're also raising the spirit of the
Yes.
season. And
Agreed.
it's so cool.
Yeah.
And then to see some of our paid ringers grind it out with us. And I think, again, numbers don't lie. Half of the money that we said comes in the kettle, $150,000 for the season, half of that's raised by our paid employees.
Yeah. Wow.
So if you don't have employees and you don't have volunteers, you have to have both, is the way I say it. You have to have both. So these paid ringers, I actually give them a little incentive. Hey, if you raise this much, we'll get you a bonus. Just a little incentivize them, and they get into it. There's competition kind of amongst themselves.
Yeah.
And now they're bringing music to play, and now they're putting on their. It's not just a job for most of those guys. But who wouldn't be able to benefit from a couple bucks at the
absolutely.
Christmas season, and they do too. So,
do you ever have any families that say, "Hey, we're gonna, have a competition internally, or this is our way of giving back to the community during"? Because I could see that being a popular thing for folks.
So I
to
think
do as a
families,
family.
there's competitions amongst businesses, families, all that kind of thing. I think the thing that I would say about families is when these parents are bringing their younger kids and their grandparents are bringing their grandkids and they're modeling it for them and they're saying what this money is going to be used for and why we're doing this, we're preparing the next generation
planting seeds
to understand how it has to be, right? How someone modeled it and taught us back in the day. Whether that's writing a check or whether that's giving of your time. And so I think that's the coolest for me is these families that come out and choose to do it together.
Yeah.
I think some of that even goes past bell ringing where they'll come and serve our Thanksgiving meal to the men in the shelter, or they'll come and serve a special Christmas meal. Some of the churches and families come out and do that. I think that's what's cool about it for me, that people are doing it, but they're doing it together, and they're doing it for some really special, positive reasons then too. Yeah. So, it's rewarding. You said that before, and it really is. It's rewarding to see people get the help that they need, and even better when they get kind of that back on their own path of self-sufficiency. That's what's so
How
rewarding.
does it look? You've been there 9 years, you said, correct? How is it different in 2024 than when you started in 2015, I guess?
Well, the goal is higher. I can say that.
So the need is greater.
So it's proportional to that. Yeah. I mean, I had a major donor 3 or 4 years ago say, I'm glad to see that you're raising the goal. Now that's like, oh man, can we really raise more money? But I think what he was saying to me that year was, if the need is greater, why wouldn't you raise the money, the goal?
Yeah,
so we have. So that's different. It was $425,000 my first year. It's up to $600,000 right now. That's a big number.
Yeah.
And we still probably don't have as much as we could have to help as many people as we can. Yeah. I think the other thing is this virtual kettle. I think the pandemic, did do some good things for all of us at some point. So the online giving, the swipe or bump your phone at the kettle. It's not just cash in that red kettle. There's actually a sign you can bump. Cool. iPay, Apple Pay, Google Pay is all on every one of our stands. And then we actually also have one that's just an immediate bump your credit card, and it's an immediate $20 donation. Oh, nice. So instantaneous. So
is that it all
so that,
most of your
that
bell
bump
ring?
The credit card is just at one of our locations. It's a kind of a mobile unit, so we're kind of testing that out.
Okay.
Cash is still king. The generation that does have, I'm going to say, the heart and the money, our boomers and so forth. That's generalizing. It's probably not fair. But they're the ones who carry cash, and they have dispensable income. The people who don't carry cash, they don't have the kind of dispensable income. So it's kind of like you want that option out there, but not everybody is carrying cash, but not everybody is in the position to be able to just pull their credit card out. We have to have those options though, and we do. I think that's the cutting edge of impressing me as a fundraiser to see the bigger picture of the Salvation Army. This isn't just a Decatur, Macon County thing. This is a nationwide entity that is just really trying to stay, ahead of the curve and out there, so we don't miss the opportunity to help people.
That's great.
So your goal's bigger, the need's bigger. Is the trend, the giving trend, has that been increasing over the last
volunteer
9 years?
hours.
What trends do you see?
I would say the volunteer hours are up. The number of people that are getting regular mailings. They make our mailing list when they make a donation. Of course, we can adjust that to people's liking, but that number needs to grow. You have to continue to grow your potential donor base, or else it's going to just dry up on its own. I mean, that as a business or as a church, you better not just live in the moment.
Right.
You better have some kind of thought to the future. So, again, I think our community is just really a generous, giving community, and for us to make our goal every year and continue to be able to help people. I mean, that to me is enough measurement. But the trends are in a lot of our favor as we look at all
Very
of that.
good. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's really good.
Salvation Army. So just because I think there's some folks who intuitively or instinctively they want to know about how the organization's run or structured. Like, is the Decatur, and I don't know if that's the appropriate name, but your Salvation Army that you are
Decatur, Macon County. Yeah, sure.
Development director. Are you part? Obviously, there are others in other communities, as you said earlier. Find your local Salvation Army.
Yeah.
Are you part of a statewide organization? Does the national organization control things in any way, shape, or form at the local level? I know from spending some days in not-for-profit world, those are the kinds of questions I would find donors curious about.
So over the years, that has probably started with just a little trivia, right? So it started back in London.
Yeah.
In a long time ago with William Booth. He was a Methodist minister who just went out and wanted to raise a few dollars to help the people in poverty. Then all of a sudden, there's this talk of a red kettle. It was a crab pot at one time in San Francisco, and it just has become the answer to your question. Quite an organization.
Yeah.
So it's worldwide, 179 languages.
Yeah. Wow.
But then United States has a territory, national. So there's north, south, east, west, and a national commander who's over the whole thing. And then there's a territory in Chicago. And then there's a division, that covers kind of that north and central Illinois down to an intentionality of making sure that there is some kind of presence in as many areas in the United States as possible.
Gotcha.
And so for Decatur and Macon County, we've been there for 136 years. Yep. When it came across the ocean in the 1880s, 1888 is when it started in Decatur.
Wow.
So that's a lot of years anyway,
yes,
right? But I think, again, to your question, these localized Champaign and Springfield, Bloomington, Decatur, those as for examples, find your local Salvation Army. Get to know them. Ask them how you can help them do what they're doing. Ask them to tell you what they do and what they're not, what they're doing. They're not trying to keep it to themselves,
right?
And for Decatur and Macon County, I love getting out there and telling people what we do, how we do it, why we do it, and then ask people to come alongside and help us do what we do.
Well, you certainly do a great job of that.
Appreciate
that. Is for sure.
I'm curious. I know you said you were superintendent for a couple of private schools previously. So has this been your? Tell us a little bit about your personal story.
Yes,
I'm curious.
So way back when, son of a pastor, so nonprofit and ministry was just always modeled in front of me.
Yeah.
My grandma used to ask me if you're going to be a pastor like your dad, and I probably got tired of hearing that. But then all of a sudden, I don't like to do public speaking. Well, now that's all I do is public speaking too. So God uses you and changes you along the way. But I got into education. I was an English teacher and a PE major, and then I got into early on school administration in Michigan. Then I went to Kansas City, and then I came to Decatur. So it was 25-ish years in private schools, Christian schools. Most of it in administration. I only taught for 3 of those years. So they knocked on my English classroom door and got me into it early. But it's funny. I think back to your question. I never enjoyed fundraising. And when I would go to these conferences, you could tell what these superintendents were doing. We're trying to kind of expose you to all the important things to be able to do a private school, Christian school. And I couldn't stand that. Well, guess what I do now, right? Is fundraising. But I think, to me, fundraising is, let me tell you what we're going to do with this. And would you come alongside us?
Yeah, if it's a compelling story.
So I don't want it to be like, hey, here comes Kyle again. He's going to ask for money. But yeah, it is my job. But I want you to know what we're going to do with it. I want you to know that this nonprofit is going to help someone in need because of your support. So 30 plus years of 25-ish in education, now almost 10 in other nonprofit world. I think my superintendent and administrator in a private school became public relations, became fundraising, in addition to running schools inside the building. And I just think that's what I've fallen in love with. I like just being outside of the four walls, whatever that ministry is, and to meet people and just talk about what we do. And I get that opportunity at Salvation Army.
Serving and caring for others is obviously a part of your DNA.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been fun. So, yeah, thanks for giving me the opportunity to share. I mean, I would undoubtedly think the listeners maybe heard something they didn't know, and maybe you guys heard a
I
little
did
bit
too,
that
for
you
sure.
don't know.
And that'd be easy because I don't always carry cash to the grocery store either. To be able to bump my phone.
I know, I love that.
I know
That's
that
why
you're
I
very
asked.
impressed that I know how to do that.
Yeah.
I know,
Of course.
I actually uploaded my credit cards to my phone.
There
I'm
you go.
feeling pretty nice about that, by the way. Haven't used it yet, though.
I
Good
also
place to start,
yes,
right?
yeah.
I also like that donors are also understanding that, you know what, you can set up a recurring gift.
Yeah,
You know,
that is
I
nice,
like that.
Yeah, I
you know,
agree.
so I get an email every month that says your donation to the Salvation Army just went through. And I'm like, oh yeah, you know,
I love
so
it.
I don't have to do anything, right?
yeah,
But I
that
just
is
knew
nice.
that need is all year long. So maybe my donation all year long is pretty important too. And I don't say that to toot my own horn. I say that that's another opportunity. You know, it's the here and now for Christmas, but that need is all year long.
Yeah. Well, it allows people to build that into their budget. People who, have causes that they love and they know make a difference and have a compelling story behind it. And sometimes it makes it easier for folks who have the ability to do so just to build it into it's a part of what I do.
Right. You really don't even see it, right? Payroll deduction or just put it on my credit card and I just pay it off every month. It does become a good way to have your heart out there and not have to remember to put your heart out there. You can just put it out there and leave it out there, right?
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
So we always ask folks on here. You probably watched a few of them. So you've had a number of years, 35 years in the professional world or so, and have dealt with a lot of people, learned a lot of things. I can only imagine the various circumstances you've been in. If you could give your younger self advice on a couple of things you've learned over those last 25 or 35 years.
Now, it depends on who's listening to this.
Okay,
right?
well, that's,
no, I'm joking.
that's a good,
No, you know what? I've often said, you know, I want to believe that anybody that I was interacting with in schools, in my classroom, on the basketball court when I was coaching, I mean, just take the journey through coaching and teaching, a parent early on and a parent, and now I'm a grandparent of a 15, 16-month-old little girl. The things that I've done, I would say, you know, I would never apologize for what I was setting out to do, but maybe always how I did it, I would look back on. So if I could be the mature 55-year-old man, which is obviously, you know, kind of cliche, but if I could have known that there was a way to do things, a way to say things, a way to be and interact with people while you were trying to do what you're about to do, the way I do it now, maybe because of that journey, I would tell myself if you could model that, if you could live that, you know, even more often in your early years than you did, or now that I want to feel like, you know, I'm a little more matured and, you know, interactive in an appropriate way. And I'll make it sound like it wasn't appropriate, but, you know, there were some times where I was just like, look, this is the way it is. You know, it's this way or the highway, you know, and yes, that was a true statement, but maybe it didn't have to be always said that way or done that way. So when you look at the approach to fundraising and the approach to parenting and grandparenting, what you would want people to hear today is, above all else, love, right? And that's our Christmas theme again. Yeah. Above all else, love. Love at all times, and love covers a multitude of sins, as the Bible tells us too. Yeah. And so to have a loving approach, not just a, nuts and bolts details approach, a people approach versus only a task approach. If I could always balance those two things back in the day, I learned that along the way.
Yeah, that's well said. A people approach,
people
along with
and
the
tasks.
Yeah.
I went to a conference one time, and that probably is the culminating answer to your question. They used an example of kind of like two dog leashes and put both of those, kind of over your head. And if one's people-oriented and one is task-oriented, one or the other is bad because it's constantly going to either pull you, choke you. But if those two things are balanced and setting right on top of each other and perfectly balanced, you've got the perfect approach to just about anything, a marriage, a family, a business, a nonprofit. Think about that. If I'm all task-oriented but not people-oriented, that's a problem. If I'm all people-oriented and I don't get anything done, that's a problem.
Right.
I'm just all nice to people.
Right.
So a balance of those things is what I would say to my younger self.
I like it.
Yeah, that's well said.
Yeah.
Good advice.
Yeah, it is.
You can take it.
Yeah.
It's all yours.
Yeah.
I will. I need to apply it all the time.
Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you for the
it's
invitation.
Awesome.
This was awesome.
great
Good luck.
Fun.
Good luck
So
this
fun.
Christmas season. So,
Thank you.
Yeah.